Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi friends, welcome to my November wrap up. So I hope you had a wonderful holiday weekend if you're in the US. If you're outside of the US, I hope you just had a wonderful October or November. Whoa, we are on December 2nd already and my brain hasn't quite put it into place yet. I had a wonderful trip home. It was great. I had a wonderful time with my family. I did come back with some sick though, so I feel okay. It's just all sitting in my throat right now, so I did make myself a Starbucks medicine ball, which I'm not saying it's a miracle, but it does feel very good on the throat. It just does. It feels so. I'll be sipping that a lot to get through this, but if you are new to my monthly wrap-ups, welcome. I'm so glad you found my channel recently. The way that I do these is that because I read a large volume of books, I'm very lucky to be able to do that. I don't talk about every book that I've read in the month in my monthly wrap-up. I talk about my stats, and then I talk about the top 5 books that I've read. If you would like to know about every book that I've read, I actually do weekly wrap-ups, and I will go ahead and link that playlist up here. You can go all the way back to January, actually, if you want, or you can start with just the last week's wrap-up, and you'll be able to, or the last month's wrap-ups, and you'll be able to know about every book that I've read. The next month weekly wrap-up that I have will actually have 2 weeks worth because I wasn't able to film one for the weekend that I was gone. But let's go ahead and get into these stats. I do have my notebook down here below me, and we will dive into everything. I'm so excited to talk about it with you. So I did get through 39 books this month, which was 14,139 pages, which is funny because even though, so I read one more book than last month, or 2 more, and I actually read less pages by like 100, which was funny. It's just cool to see how the stats work out. The formats of these is I had 18 ebooks, 11 audiobooks, 16 ARCs, and 13 physical books. The subgenres of these were I had 13 contemporary books, 4 dark romances, 2 dystopian, 2 erotic romance, 8 fan fictions because of the fan fiction readathon at the beginning of the month, 4 fantasy, 5 historical, and 1 sci-fi. So we had a nice range. Then for the ratings, we had 2 6-star reads, one of which is a new one. Can't wait to talk about that. 7 5-star reads, 8 4.5-star reads, 16 4-star reads, 3 3.5-star reads, 1 3-star, 1 2-star, and 1 DNF. So also a great range of ratings this time too. So it was a pretty good month though. The fanfiction readathon was amazing. I love doing that. And I think November was a good time to do it. It was the first 2 weeks of the month. And though I couldn't just read fanfiction, I did still have ARCs I had to read and stuff like that. It was really great to do. I'm really thankful to my co-hosts who helped me do it. And I look forward to doing another one next year. It was so much fun. And out of that readathon, I actually have 2 of my favorites of the month are actually fan fictions. They were just both so amazing. So we're going to go through those. One of them was Love in the Time of the Zombie Apocalypse by Rizzle Writes, I believe, or Rizzle. I've seen it both ways. Rizzle Writes is the name that's in here. This is a copy that my friend Mel actually sent to me. She's one of my co-hosts and a good friend of the channel. But this is a Dramini fanfiction that takes place in a time of a zombie apocalypse. Imagine that. I'm going to put this up here because it is very heavy and my wrists will get tired. So the main setup of this is that it is a few years after like Voldemort has been defeated. Draco is in Azkaban, and in the last few years, a zombie virus is sweeping through the world. And it's hitting both muggles and magicals alike. And so muggles have had to come, or not muggles, the magical people have had to come out and actually band together with muggles in some senses, because everyone is being affected by this. There's nobody that can really hide from it. Though there are some differences between humans that turn into zombies and then like magicals that turn into zombies. There's a difference between what the virus does to them, which is interesting. And the very beginning of this book actually starts with Harry and Hermione breaking Draco out of Azkaban, because he was actually a part of, how to explain this? I don't want to spoil everything, but let's just say that he is working on a cure for this. He had been assigned by Voldemort to figure out a cure for this virus. But Voldemort is actually the one who also had someone create the virus. So what was going on, to not, again, go too deep into this, is that Lord Voldemort wanted to both create the virus and the cure so that he could just cure the people that he wanted to, type of thing. But it got out of hand before then, and Voldemort's defeated. Draco is in prison, and he's actually been pretty safe in the prison because it's pretty difficult for, any zombies to have gotten to Azkaban. But Hermione and Harry know that they need him, and so they break in there and they bring him back to Grimmauld Place, which is where Project Christmas is set up. So yeah, this is a fun one to read around the holidays, actually, because it fits in there. And they have, again, both muggle and magical people and scientists who are trying to figure out a cure for this. And it's very, pertinent for them right now, because they do have this serum kind of that they can give to extend the time between when someone's infected and when they fully turn. Currently, that serum can't stop the virus, but it can slow it down. And so they're looking for a way to, there are some people who are constantly taking that serum as both prevention and, if they get bit or if they get infected, to try to hold out until there is a cure. There's a lot going on with that. And when we start this story, Ron is actually infected. So you can see why Harry and Hermione really want to ramp up trying to solve this issue. And Draco is a very uncaring and aloof man at the beginning of this story. He is very complex. He's definitely morally gray, obviously, but he also is in the perfect place to be in a morality chain, as it were. Now, if you've read a lot of morally gray characters or dark romance, you possibly know what a morality chain is. I'm not going to go into that right now, but there has always been something about Hermione that has fascinated him just a little bit, even back in school. And when we start this story, when they bring him from Azkaban to Grimmauld Place, there's actually a magical tether that is put on him, and currently Hermione holds the other end of it, so there's nowhere that he can disapparate to that she wouldn't be able to follow him, and there's nothing that he would be able to do to her that wouldn't stop him. And that's what that magical tether does in the beginning. But anyway, we don't stay in that place forever. There is actually a floating fleet out in, are they in the Atlantic or the Pacific? I don't know where they are, with some wealthy humans who have created kind of this floating community. And they've actually turned against magicals, where they could taken their wands away and see them as the enemy. And there's so many dynamics. I know I'm just kind of rambling about all the different things, but why I want people to read this one is, number one, this was a fascinating story. I don't really love horror. There is, a good amount of body horror because we are dealing with zombies. So there's people that get eaten at different points, and it is hard to read sometimes. But the way that this story was laid out, the way that the clues are laid out, the way that we get reveals, the way that we see Draco and Hermione working through this, it's crazy. And the thing is, they do have a toxic relationship, as in a lot of Hermiones that are dark, but it also has a lot of like hope in it in a ways that some of the others don't. And I wouldn't call this the darkest one I've ever read. It's still dark. You know, we got zombies. There's a lot of death that happens in here. But on like an emotional level, this one wasn't like as dark as like a Manacled or an Auction or things like that. And I thought the action was really well done. It was really well paced. So this book took me like, I think I was still finishing it after the readathon was done, but it was so good. I highly recommend this one. I even say this could be people's first one. You know, I really think it could, in the way that sometimes, you know, Manacled being the epic one is the first one for people. I don't know. I loved it. I really did. It was 5 stars. It does have a very lengthy, like, afterwards as well. So we do, you know, we find a cure eventually. And then there is part of this story that is the aftermath. Like, who do we blame? Who do they want to try to punish for everything that's happened? You get the idea. And I loved this Draco. I really, really did. I love this Draco. I love this Hermione. Lots of trigger warnings. I won't list them all. They're in the book, like in the fan fiction if you need them. But it was a very powerful story. I loved it a lot. Woo! So, we'll mix up I'll do another book and then we'll do another fan fiction. So, another book that I was really anticipating, and I'm so glad that I ended up liking a lot, was Braving the Storm by Elliot Rose. I was very kindly sent an ARC of this book. Now, the beautiful ARC that I'm holding actually didn't arrive until like, I think almost 2 weeks after the book came out, which was a little sad because we were supposed to get it beforehand, but that's okay. I had an e-ARC of it, so I had already read it, but I just wish I'd been able to promo with it because that's the point of a beautiful ARC. But this is book 2 in the, what's this series going to be called? I don't even know. What's it called? Crimson Ridge? Yeah, this is book 2 in the Crimson Ridge. And this one is the one a lot of us have been hyped for. Chasing the, what is it? Chasing, what's it called? What's the first one called? Because this is Braving the Storm. Chasing the Wild. There we go. Chasing the Wild is book 1, which was an ex-boyfriend's dad. This one is a like forbidden niece and uncle romance. Now, they're not blood related. This is an adopted uncle. And they haven't seen each other in many years. Like, yes, he knew her when she was a teenager, but it's not like he helped raise her or they were close. He's also an ex-bull rider, and he's now currently a farrier. Now, our heroine, she kind of runs away from her family. Her father has recently died, and like her brother and I think her sister are trying to force her into some things. No, her sister and another person, I don't want to say who they are because it like spoils things, are trying to like push her into something. And her father left her like this land and a cabin on Crimson Ridge. And so to get away from her family, she goes to stay in this cabin. Only when she gets there, she realizes that Storm is living there. And the way this book actually begins is that he shows up at home and there's someone there. It is a Buckle Bunny who's there. Or so he thinks. And so he comes in and there's this woman showering in his bathroom and she's left the door open. And so he's like, well, I'll fuck this Buckle Bunny and then I'll send her on his way. Because he's had women try to get at him at other times. And he's like, I'll take a good fuck before I go to bed or whatever. So he literally starts like getting ready to fuck before he's even said hello to this girl. And then he like puts his hands on her and he's like ready to fuck her. And he's like, I'm going to bend you over and fuck you. And then she's like, Uncle Storm? And he's like, oh my God. So very like tough beginning in this one. And this is a 1-bedroom cabin. So like he ends up giving her the bedroom and he's sleeping on the very uncomfortable sofa. And there is like a misunderstanding about like who's this belongs to or whatever, and she's like, I'm not going back home, I'm staying here for a while. So there's a little bit of friction about that in the beginning, but these two are very physically attracted to each other. There's a lot of forbiddenness about it, but I will say this, there's nothing, you know, biologically why these two can't be together, but there is they kind of play into their taboo a lot. I just want to put that out there. One of my friends who read it, she thought that they pointed out their relationship too much, and that can happen, but they kind of like the taboo. So I'm just warning you that, like, they aren't related at all, but sometimes when they're being intimate, he'll be like, do you want Uncle to show you something? And she'll be like, show me, Uncle Storm. So you might not like that, and just know it before you go in. But I thought it was really hot. And this one has some really hot kinks in it. This one has free use that is used, which you'll see how it's handled in here. It's really hot. There are also a lot of trigger warnings for this as well, including like death of someone off page, suicide off page, there's blood, mental health discussions, and a few other things like that, so make sure you check it out. But I loved this couple. I thought this book was so hot. I love the dark cowboy life. I love it so much. There's actually a holiday book that just released in here called like Buckles and something else, and I can't wait to read that one. It looks so good. So yeah, if you like a spicy good time, you like it a little bit taboo, hit this one up for sure. Okay, then I realized I didn't take this back down. I had another fan fiction, as I said. This one was also Dramini. I didn't only read Dramini for this readathon, by the way. I read a lot of different ones, but the Dramini is what was speaking to me, as it so often does. And this one I read has been on my TBR ever since it finished earlier this year, and it was called Bloody, Slutty, and Pathetic. And this one is a forced marriage. It's a marriage law. And Draco is actually super into it, but he doesn't want Hermione to know how into her he is. And she just is infuriated that she has to get married to him. So there's actually a lot of resentment, at least from her side to his. And he has a bit of self-hatred, just a wee bit of it. The Malfoys themselves, like even Lucius, who is currently in Azkaban, he is actually like, this could be really good for the family. She is a war heroine. Having her name attached to ours, even though she is a mudblood, could be very good for us. And Draco's just like, fuck you. That's not why I'm doing this. But Hermione, in the beginning, is really not going to do anything to him, or do anything with him. But the thing is, she actually has the like mudblood scar that Bellatrix put in her. And it was also cursed. In this story, it's cursed, where you need black blood to like heal it. And so they discover this actually when they have a fight, because yes, they get in fights, and Hermione like actually like hits Draco a lot. He wants her to. It's weird. It's so hard to explain. They have a very toxic relationship. But at one point, what happens is he's bleeding somehow, and his blood gets on her this scar, and it heals it. And so they discover that his blood will heal this. Now, it doesn't heal it forever, only, you know, it'll heal it up for a while, and then slowly it will start to hurt again. But one of the things that was interesting about this is, for a good part of the story, before we realize what his blood can do, Hermione, like, yes, she's very angry to be married to him, but that pain that she's in just really ramps up her anger constantly. And once that pain gets relieved with that blood from his, she's able to like think more clearly again too. So I thought that was written very well, because you can tell her like irritation and anger at him runs in conjunction with how much pain that she is in, which, I mean, that's very true. Like, that's very realistic how that would be, you know. Very interesting. So yeah, I just really loved it. I love this couple. This Draco is almost a little bit too self-hating for me, but I still really liked him, and I love the way their relationship evolves. Now, the other thing that makes this a 5-star is that Draco and Hermione are, of course, the main relationship. But because their relationship is very contentious in the beginning, and it does take a long time before we get to that point where they're like, where he's sharing blood with her, and when they finally are fucking, and he likes to be submissive sometimes. He's a brat, so he likes to be forced to submit to her sometimes. He also really needs attention. So I love, because later on, once they are getting along better, he'll cause problems. And she's like, do you need my attention, Draco? And he'll be like, yes, finally, you're paying attention to me. So not everyone's going to like that type of Draco, but it was refreshing to me. I love reading a type of Draco like this one, who's always cool and collected and is thinking 5 steps ahead. But the Draco in Bloody, Slutty, and Pathetic, he's a bit more impulsive and a bit more like, but also a bit like very sweet and gooey underneath. I just love it. So then, anyway, so their relationship takes a while like that. It's a slow build for them, as it should be. But there are 2 other relationships that get time in here. One of them is Pansy and Neville. Their relationship is wonderful. Like, I love it so much. I love it. And then there's also a Charlie and Theo relationship going on. Charlie Weasley and Theo not. And the way it goes, it's like Hermione and Draco get the most, then Pansy and Neville, and then Charlie and Theo. But I loved all of those relationships. And so for me, the collective of all those relationships are what I loved so much. And yeah, it was a 5-star read. And I really want to read more from this fic author for sure as well. Okay, then The Horde King of Shadow is the 6-star read that I read this month. This is a new release from her. I've been highly anticipating this one. I was lucky enough to get an arc of it. And this starts off her new series. Now, personally, it has been a long time since I read the original series. I also know a lot of you haven't finished the original series. For me, I adored this book. I remembered just enough of the previous series parts that I recognized a few things. But this book starts off 200 years after the end of the last series. So there's nobody still alive from then. There are definitely some callbacks to it and some hints at things. And I know that one of my other friends who read it said that she was actually slightly disappointed in this one because she was expecting more things to connect. And that didn't bother me because I wasn't expecting anything to connect. She only just reread those books. So personally, for me, my experience was elevated by not having any expectations, or, you know, there are things that are hinted at in the original series that I'm sure we will get to. I don't think Zoe put those down for us to not get to. But I know that her reading experience was tainted a little bit because she was expecting those things. So everyone who's been asking, should you read the other series first? My answer would be, number one, you don't need to, because I barely remembered anything about it. And this was a 6-star book for me. And another part of it might be, maybe you'll like it better not knowing those things. So what can I say? But this was wonderful. This was a forced marriage of this kind of, is she a bastard princess? I think she is. Or either way, like, her father is different from like her brother and sister's fathers, and her mother is dead. And so she's kind of a half-breed. And so she's the like, the problem child of the royal family, we'll just say. And she's very much into books, and she keeps to herself like that. And our hero is a Horde King and a Dragon Rider. So he's a Horde King of Elphica, is I believe how we say this. And the Elphica are the dragons. So they're the Horde Kings of dragons. And our hero, his name is Sarkin. And his dragon, her name is Zeradin. And I love her. I love her so much. She's the perfect type of dragon for me. They are sentient. They can communicate with you slightly, but they're not like jabbering away in your head. Now, I love a talking dragon. I do. But there's something more ethereal, something more magical when the dragon is almost like above you in a way. Not that they're like more intelligent than people, but just you really have to be in tune with them and sensitive with them to be able to make it work. But they can hear and understand you. They just don't like talk back type of thing. But I love Zeradin so much. But anyway, the reason why Sarkin forces this woman to marry him, or like kind of forces her kingdom into giving her to him, is that dragons need the heartstones for their power. Now, the Heartstones are something that connects with the other series, right? You'll recognize that if you've read those. And the Heartstones are becoming more rare and harder to find, especially ones that are of full potency. And it is rumored, or I can't remember if a seer tells him, I don't quite remember, but he's told that one of the children of this king will be able to help him find the Heartstones. And so when he discovers that that is Clara, he basically threatens her father that if you don't give her to me as a wife, we will burn down your city. Like, see my fleet of dragons, we'll burn down your city. You give me the princess, it's all works. So she really doesn't have a choice. So she goes with him, and they have this like forced marriage, and he's very resentful that he needs this weak, bookish woman as his bride, but like he also wants to save the dragon, so he has to work with her. And she resents that she's being ripped away from her family, because even though her father and her stepmother don't treat her very well, like she really loves one of her brothers. One of her brothers is really great. And also this big brute of a Horde king is telling her that she is going to have to bond with her own dragon, because to be a queen of his Horde, she also must be a dragon rider. And she's like, I don't know anything about this. But it's really cool because, you know, we get some training sequences. She basically has to go to like school with some of the, not like a full-on school, right? It's not like Fourth Wing type thing, but she has to go to some training with other of the Horde who are also working up to bonding with their dragon. And then there is a certain time of year usually where there's this big like plain at the top of a area where the Elthica will all come, and you as the like dragon rider will basically jump on a dragon, and if you stay on, then you've bonded with them. Or if they don't try to throw you off, then you've bonded with them. And there is a dragon that Clara doesn't want to admit that she's been dreaming of for many years. And, well, you can maybe see what we mean. But part of the reason, so the reason why he needs her to find the Heartstones is because she has dreamed of the Heartstones. She feels kind of drawn to them. She's also has done a lot of studying and research. She is a bookish girl. So that's part of the way that he's supposed to be able to use her to find the Heartstones. Now, that I think will be what pulls into future books, because we don't go and find all of those in this one. This book focused on this couple, her becoming the queen that she's meant to be, learning how to ride a dragon, finding her dragon, bonding with the dragon, all those things. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. But we don't, solve the issue of the Heartstones in this one. We are going to do that in later books. But I love this. I loved every second of it. I savored this. Their romance was so beautiful. It starts off like most Zoe Dravens do, where they're definitely enemies. He's forcing her into this marriage. He's also very kind of cruel to her for the fact that she's never been off the ground before, and she's thrown onto a dragon and is just supposed to know how to ride one. So he has very high expectations of her, because he's like, no one can see any weakness. If you show any weakness, my Horde won't respect you. And she's like, but how? I don't know how to ride a dragon. So he's very difficult on her in the beginning, which does get very frustrating, but Zoe Draven means it to be that way. It makes it more satisfying when she does earn his respect, when she does become a queen worthy of him. It's so satisfying. So I loved it. I got done with it, and I was like, as I often do, I'm like, what else did I want? And again, this is where I think not having any expectations from the previous series that like my friend did, I wasn't missing a thing. And maybe if I go and reread those books, I would. But in this case, this book was everything I wanted it to be, and it was perfect for me. So 6-star read, and it's going to make it onto the top list of the year. All right, one more to talk about. And this one isn't out yet. I know I'm so mean. So I read my arc of See It Through by Julia Wolf. Is it possible to have a favorites and not have a Julia Wolf on it? Well, it hasn't happened yet. Now, this one didn't make it to the 6-star, but it is a solid 5-star, and it's not so much I have like tons of reasons why it's not a 6-star. It's just, I'll explain. I already have 2 of her books on my 6-star list this year. And it's not that I'm afraid to add a third, like, I'll add a third if I need to. It's that I'm comparing her to herself. And starting this new series, there was a lot that needed to get done with this one. There's also a lot of characters to service because we already love some of the characters in this story, so there's a lot going on. But there was also so many Easter eggs that were so satisfying if you've read the other books by Julia Wolf. And the ones that connect with this one, we say, are Sweet Like Poison, as well as Sincerely or Inconvenient Wife. Those ones both play into this book. And I had a great time with it, but I was missing just my little extra oomph that I wanted from it. But it is 5-star, and I have a feeling that her cowboy series is gonna, like, we're gonna get there. I believe there will be 6-star reads from this series. There's gonna be 4 of them. There's gonna be some, particularly the single dad we have coming up. Because I gotta tell you, Julia Wolf hasn't done a single dad in a few years. The last one I think was Waves We Break, was the single dad one. And this is a cowboy single dad coming up. Anyway, but this one was about Hannah, who is the daughter of Lachlan and Elena. She's also a female farrier. And also her mentor and companion just died. Now his son, his name is Remy, and he did not make it back to see his father while he was sick, nor when he died. It is, I think, like a couple months after his father died, and no one knows where he was. Also, Remy used to be best friends with Hannah's brother, and he just disappeared many years ago. He's a famous photographer, actually. He does, like, wartime photos and really poignant photos, and he's won prizes for them, and he's very good at what he does. And he shows back up in town, planning to sell off his father's land and home and then get out of there. Like, he doesn't want the memories that are in Sugar Brush. And the thing is, he wasn't left the home and the business outright. It is actually shared with Hannah. Hannah was left half of everything because that's how much this man, like, grew to love Hannah. And Hannah has a lot of resentment towards Remy. Where did he go? Why wasn't he here? Why didn't he answer his dying father's call so that he could have peace, you know? And Remy is just like, I don't owe this man anything. He made my childhood miserable. He's the reason I left, the reason I ran away from people that I cared about, because he did really care about the Kellys. Like, he was practically raised beside them for many years. And we don't know why he was gone or what happened. And the man that Hannah knew in the father is very different from the man who was Remy's father. So that's where a lot of the tension in the beginning of this story is coming from, is that she is just so pissed at him that he broke this man's heart. And he's like, you don't know what I lived through. I don't owe this man shit. So that's kind of the dichotomy between them in the beginning. And then also, you know, Remy is a bit on the shit list of some other people in town too, including her brother, including her mother a little bit. Okay, Elena is a little bit side-eyeing this guy as well. But I'll tell ya, I don't want to spoil anything. I mean, besides you knowing that Locke and Elena are there, they're not overwhelmingly in it. I will say she doesn't Julia very much makes it not like Hannah and Remy are the love story here. Locke and Elena have had their day. They're still very much in love. They're still adorable as always. There's lots of moments, if you love them, that you're going to see the sweet touches that are put in there, but it doesn't overwhelm it in any way. Though there are some wonderful scenes of Locke being like, you're going to take care of my baby? If you're not going to take care of my baby, like, best that you go right now. And I love it. But anyway, as I said, one of her, I believe she's the oldest girl, because there's Caleb, Hannah, and then the other brother, and then Phoebe. I can't remember the other brother's name right now, but there's going to be 4. There's going to be a book for each one of them. So excited. And Caleb, I'm saying it is Caleb, isn't it? Yeah. He is the single dad. So he's a little boy named Jesse, and already excited for that. I hope his will be the next book, I assume. So yeah, I loved it. It was great. This is also more suspense than any of her other books. It doesn't go full on, let's say, it doesn't go full on like Catherine Cowell's level of it, but there is very clearly a suspense element put in throughout it, and you'll see it when it comes out. But I love this. It was fantastic. I love the relationship. As for the, like, she didn't really put any new types of kinks in this one. That's something fun she's done in the last books, is to have some, like, new fun kink. This one didn't much. Yeah, there's a few throat necklaces in here and some rough and fun stuff, but nothing too wild in this one. It was hot. I mean, of course, Julia Wolf knows how to get us there for sure, but it was just beautiful. I love it. I can't wait for everyone to get it. And just because this one wasn't a 6-star, I'm still going to talk about it a whole bunch. And who knows, when I reread it, I'm sure I'll reread it and annotate this one. I'm definitely buying myself a copy as soon as humanly possible. Maybe I'll change my mind too. It did take me about 4 or 5 days to read it. That's partially why too it's at a 5-star, because even though I had other stuff going on, when I love a Julia Wolf, everything else can go fuck itself and I won't look at anything else, right? Even if I have responsibilities, if I have Patreon books, if I have other arcs, I will read that. And I was able to put it down a few times. So that's why, like, it's not a diss against it. It was great. It just was also like, I was able to put it down. And yet I still was excited to pick it back up. So it's not like I would put it down and forget about it. I just was able to. Whatever. These are my reasonings, rounding around, if you know what I mean. But it's 5 stars. It's a 3.5 on the spice scale. Can't wait for you guys to read it. So, okay, I need to stop talking now and rest my throat. It's getting Thankfully, the medicine ball helped at least me be able to talk. Like, it doesn't feel good. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your favorite books in November were. Let me know what you're looking forward to in December. And yeah, we'll chat again real soon, my friends. Bye-bye.